before we go into full-blown playoff content, it's worth mentioning the Panthers deserve to be in the wild card round. They won the NFC South. Yes, they were opportunistic. Yes, the Buccaneers lost 7 of their last 9. A catastrophic collapse. One of the worst head coaching drownings I have ever seen. Todd Bowles going down with the ship in Tampa. A catastrophe in Atlanta as well. They fire their GM and head coach the day the season ends. And the Panthers were what they've really been since the beginning of 2025, which is opportunistic. Like a raccoon going through your garbage. Oh, that's a cosmic brownie in there. And their philosophy in the draft, getting these guys not really being married to anyone, but still coming away with guys they really were happy with. Seeing Scorton fall, seeing T-Mac there at 8. The way they're always playing the waiver wire, always looking for other teams' castaways so they can bring them to Carolina. And that is the type of team that makes it at 8 and 9 into the playoffs. And I think some people out there need to lose sight of what happened Saturday night. Look, it happened. We both showed up to the 8 a.m. on Monday. Just the 8 a.m. this time isn't a college sociology class. It's 4:30 Eastern in the wild card round against the Rams. We both showed up to class. One of us has baggy sweatpants, baggy eyelids, and we kind of look stoned. The other one of us is Tiger Woods, to bring up the famous Hemi Hardaway meme, the meme that he posted on X. Hemi Hardaway, I don't know if he posted one for the playoffs, but every week would track the Chiefs and the Panthers, with Tiger Woods representing the elite NFL team, the playoff caliber team, and John Daly, all 300 pounds of him, sitting there with the club looking at the playoff team and smoking a cigar and saying, "We're both here. We're both here." And they are. And they deserve it. No ifs, ands, or buts. But I did say this was going to happen. 9 and 8 would have been so much more tolerable, because then you could at least say you're above 500 for sure. That would help. But I've talked to Falcons and Bucs fans, and they both feel that the Panthers won it fair and square, just because the disasters that they're undergoing with their respective franchises. The Bucs just perpetually underachieved this season after a rather hot start. Let's talk about the keys to the game on Saturday. Rico Dowdle, he's going to be number 1. And Dave Canales is doing something that you don't see Dave Canales do all that often, which is set a fire under a player. And there's no other way that I can look at it at this point. I think clear as day, Canales is looking at the running back and saying, some of those runs he had against the Bucs, some of those passes Bryce threw to you against the Seahawks, you could have got more yards. You could have maybe trucked Witherspoon a little bit more, gone through the line, or hit the hole with a little more explosion. Here's Dave Canales on Rico Dowdle, who will be a key to the Panthers' success on Saturday against the Rams.
Rams rematch, how important is it for Dowdle and Hubbard to control the offense the way they did in the Week 13 win?
It's a full group effort. Starts with me and the coaching staff, making sure that we have the right plan together for our guys. And then it starts up front with the O-line, the blocking, the combos, making sure we're moving guys off the spot to get the play started. And then once the backs have the ball, just looking for that violent style of play that we saw, that we know they can, and return to that and make sure we're getting efficient runs on a consistent basis.
I won't bore you with it. We talked about it yesterday, but the ripped sleeve, the riz, the aura of Rico Dowdle, the guy that your friend who's not a Panthers fan, was texting you about because he was carrying their fantasy team. That Rico Dowdle, the guy who turned 0 and 1 yard runs into 7 yards at points and didn't have a ton of explosiveness. He's not the home run hitter like Travion Henderson or one of the, like Adrian Peterson back in the day, this guy that goes 80 yards. But I think the benefit of Dowdle is he represents what the Panthers want to do, which is run you over, smash mouth football, smash mouth podcasting. If you get that reference, you're awesome. And really win this game by bulldozing the opponent. And Canales knows how important Dowdle is. He lived through the Marshawn Lynch Beast Quake era. He knows how important it is you run over the opponent. And I think this Rams defense that's coming off a game a couple weeks ago where they gave up 195 yards rushing to Bijan Robinson, Canales knows how important the run is he's setting a fire under his best player. And I think he does this with only a couple of guys. Genuinely. Really, Jalen Coker and Rico Dowdle are the only two players that I notice Canales digs into a little bit. So here is Canales another time on Rico Dowdle talking about how he will challenge him in the game against the Rams.
Challenge in the backs. Get that ball and run physical downhill. Let's get efficient runs. You know, we can't have zeros and ones if there's any daylight at all. Let's get behind our pads. Let's get 2, 3, or 4. We do that twice in a row. We're in a manageable third down. You know?
So one more time doing that. And the only two guys that I feel he really does this with is Jalen Coker and Rico Dowdle. And I think both these players are unique. I think they're big talents. I also think they haven't particularly won over the coaching staff. In other words, I think you see it on the field. Sometimes Coker or Dowdle, just their emotion. I think they're very big characters, big personalities. Sometimes you see Coker throw his hands up after a bad pass. I don't think he and Dowdle are as bought in drinking the Kool-Aid compared to some other players. And I think Canales is actually doing the right thing here, which is, okay, Rico, you're the 200 yards from scrimmage guy. You were cast away from the Cowboys. You play with this huge chip on your shoulder. He's the guy that sits alone at lunch in high school. And you look at him and you go, he's a beast. He's an athlete. He's like the star linebacker, but he just doesn't talk to anyone. You don't really understand him, but he's sitting over there and he's eating. He's the type of guy that buys 2 lunches shamelessly. Like everyone else thinks twice about it. He just goes up there and does it. It brings like $15 to school. That's probably how much it costs for a school lunch. I don't have children. I'd imagine it's ridiculous how much they charge for a school lunch these days. And he just sits there with 2 trays of bad meatloaf and rice and stuffs face and kind of keeps to himself. But he wants to be out there. He wants to be the focal point. He doesn't want to be number 2. So if you're going to do that, you can't have it both ways, Rico. I'm Dave Canales. I challenge you to lower your pads and not get these 0 and 1 yard runs like you had against the Bucks. Go and get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like you did against the Dolphins. Who knows if they're going to be arm tackling? I cannot imagine that the Rams are going to go into this game and arm tackle like the Dolphins did or the Cowboys did earlier this season. But who knows? Who knows? Clearly, Canales thinks Dowdle's capable of it, and I saw some comments on this yesterday. It's worth clearing this up. Here's Dave Canales on Rico Dowdle's status. He believes Dowdle is healthy.
And how is Dowdle's toe?
He seemed fine to me. You know, we'll do all of our medical rechecks and we'll have all that information out later.
Even a little bit more there. He didn't think it was an injury problem. I speculated that. I thought he just looked out of the game against Tampa. I know some people commented about the incentives at line. Hell, maybe he just had a bad game. Who knows? Like, it happens. But clearly, Canales knows the value that Dowdle brings to the table and understands how much that Rico Dowdle can help them on Saturday against the Rams. Dude, I love these Saturday games, just aside. I love these Saturday games. I think it's so much cooler. Because then it's like Sunday, you're not really worried about like sitting and being on the couch at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock. It's like you can just do what you want. Saturday night comes around. I'm in bed early on Saturdays. I don't go out and party much. Sometimes I do. Not much. And it's nice. It's like you go watch the game, you sit there, you have a beer, whatever. I sit there, I eat popcorn, I eat a ton of popcorn till my stomach hurts, and I watch the game. And it's like, that's perfect for me. 1 o'clock on a Sunday, I want to go ball. I want to go walk outside. I want, get sun on my face or something. It's like, that's Saturday game. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but hopefully that speaks to the college football fans out there who I would imagine enjoy the Saturday game. Robert Hunt, I'm going to talk more about him specifically later this week, just because I think the injury report's going to be huge. I actually was not confident in Robert Hunt's injury status. Didn't think he was going to play this year, if you asked me 3 days ago, if you asked me 72 hours ago. But Canales did allude that he could be ready to go on Saturday, and maybe that's just, Robert Hunt is, I think, the blueprint prototype Panther. He shows up, he's been in the building, he's been healing with their people, he tore the biceps earlier this season, but he's been in the building the whole time, hasn't missed a meeting. And maybe part of that is he makes $100 million, and it's like, it's a lot easier to show up for work when you're making $100 million. But I don't know. I think he wants to be out there a lot, and I think that is a guy that could help you out. You've had a rotation on the offensive line. It's worked out for you. I thought the Bucs, part of it was the game plan, but I thought they were firing through the offensive line. I didn't think the O-line looked particularly good as it pertains to running the ball. Protection was a different story, but I think running the ball, Robert Hunt could give you a spark if he's ready to go. Let's talk wide receiver position. And for the first time in show history, I'm going to do what Cowboys podcasts do. So I try to learn from other fan bases' podcasts so I can bring their jewelry here. I'm like a conqueror. So I go and I listen to other podcasts. Last week I was listening to the Bills podcast. They're a bunch of nutbags in a good way. Like, I mean that as a compliment. Like they are insane, those fans and those talking heads. And then I started watching Cowboys podcasts, and they do an amazing job. So trying to just pick and choose, like I'm at the grocery store, fill in the cart, different things I can bring to the table and hopefully do to serve this amazing fan base. And one of those is clipping yourself. So you're going to actually hear from me in the time capsule. So we're going to go back to August when we were talking about this freaking storyline. And here is a tweet from Joe Person. Dave Canales has moved Jalen Coker into more of a starter role in 12 personnel. And for good reason. Coker played a season-high 92% of snaps versus the Bucs, while Xavier Legette played a career-low 31%. And this has been a trend over the past few weeks. It seems week in and week out, Legette's snap counts are going down. Coker's are on the rise. I think most specifically, I've noticed it on that outside when they line up Coker on one side of the field and he's away from everyone else and they send him on the streak. So they were doing this all the time with Legette. They hit on it literally one time all season. It was the game in Atlanta where he got a ton of separation on Natrone Brooks, who had one of the worst days from a defensive back that I have ever seen in NFL history. And that is not even an understatement. That was one of the worst games there's few circumstances where I could do better. And I mean that as someone who is, I try to be humble athletically. Like I've been humbled too many times. I've never been dunked on, but I've been blocked badly. And in football, I've gotten my crap rang too. So I try not to talk smack. I think I could have done better than Natrone Brooks did on that day. I'm not even kidding. But here is Dave Canales on Xavier Legette outpacing Jalen Coker when it comes to snap count.
Hey, Dave, I was going to ask you about wide receiver. Jalen played 92% of the snaps. Xavier only played 31, I believe. Can you talk about that decision? Why you made that decision that Jalen is seeing a larger role on offense and Xavier less of a role.
Yeah, it's a really big time for Jalen as he's been stepping up and making plays for us. And so, we looked at last week as an opportunity to get him out there a little bit more in 12 personnel, 13 personnel, get him out there just because of the way he's been producing and give him more opportunities. And, Xavier understands that part too. And he made his plays when they came to him in the game. So I was really proud of the way that he made an impact as well. But again, this is a celebration of Jalen just continuing to step up into a more starter role in 12 personnel and 11 personnel and those things, just trying to find a way to get him more involved.
So he says a celebration of Jalen getting him more involved in the offense, which I think that's one way to look at it. I flip the coin and I say this is an opportunity for Xavier Legette, who statistically has regressed in, I believe, all categories compared to his rookie year. I think for Legette, you go out there and have a big game. I think you're talking about the difference between someone who unequivocally is involved in the offense next year and maybe slowly seeing the door. Now, I think we have been talking about this forever. So finally you hear Canales in his words come close to closing the door, not closing the door on Legette though, more so opening the door for Coker and saying Legette has taken the back seat. Now, this is something that we have been talking about, I think, game in and game out forever now. And literally preseason, we were still talking about this. So let's flash back to August. Here is a clip of me talking about this storyline from back in August. I have a feeling I'm going to sound like a D-bag. I don't know why. I was like listening to myself talk, and I do it all the time. I feel like I'm going to sound like a D-bag. Here's this guy. Here's the tone. And you cannot hide the fact that Coker, every opportunity he gets, it's highlights. He goes in the game for Legette within seconds. It's a touchdown. He had the jump ball that got called back. And everything that the Panthers wanted Legette to do when they drafted him, specifically catching the ball, which is obvious, but high pointing, contested catches, heck, even when he has the ball in his hand underneath, Coker has been killing it. So finally, you've gone back and forth with this game of fencing between the two receivers, and Coker has won the hand of the charming prince, Dave Canales. And I think it's been a long time coming, but I do find it fascinating in that clip how he leaves the door open. So instead of saying Coker's the starter, just outright, he throws this filler language in there. And I call it filler language. I know some people love the personnel and they love the jargon, but I honestly think Canales is weaseling his way out of saying the obvious, which is Coker is now your number 2 wide receiver. So some people used to think this was like a controversial opinion. So back when I was saying this in August, it was something people disagreed with. And they didn't think I was correct in my evaluation of the wide receiver. To each their own, who cares? Now, Canales is fully on board with Coker as being the number 2 wide receiver as long as he's healthy. But he leaves the door open for Legette. So here's that clip one more time, him talking about the personnel.
But again, this is a celebration of Jalen just continuing to step up into a more starter role in 12 personnel and 11 personnel and those things, just trying to find a way to get him more involved.
So this isn't a celebration of Coker becoming the starter. He throws the personnel language in there. And pretty much what he's saying is if there's 2 receivers on the field, it's going to be T-Mac and Coker, the 12 personnel. That's what's going to happen. But I think he throws that in there to land this softly. Which is Coker is the guy now. And we'll see how this evolves in the offseason. Like, what is Legette's role if they go out and get another speedy slot receiver, which I think they really need desperately more than any other position on offense, except maybe a superstar tight end. I'd take that too. But I think Legette, a guy that you can't hate on him. He's a freaking awesome dude, high character, well regarded by the locker room. Aside from a couple distractions off the field, like the rapper situation, I think she got like busted or something like a couple weeks after she was hanging out with him. I don't know, off the field stuff that it's like he was constantly getting himself in front of the camera during the off season. Aside from that, he's been like the stand-up high character. I thought he was a good guy, like big personality, but in a good way. It was balanced. It was the dollar bill, the horse, the fan favorite, the raccoon sandwiches, like all that was cool and fun. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I hope that he takes the opportunity on Saturday to capitalize against the Rams. Maybe this is a guy that can catch a big pass. It's 30% of snaps. Maybe there is a play where he breaks away against this weak Rams secondary, which brings me to Bryce Young. Bryce Young, who I try to keep up with all the buzz, all the conversation happening everywhere, not just on Mint Street and in front of the stadium, people talking under a tree or something. I want to hear what everyone's saying, and I think Bryce Young it's the biggest game of his career. It's a playoff game. So it's like, obviously, I think that's just inherently true. Has he had other pivotal moments? Well, I think throughout his career, he's played for his job. In 2024, there were rumors. I don't know how legit they were, but rumors that he was going to be traded. He came back and inspired enough confidence in the front office to go and draft his friend T-Mac the next offseason by his performance at the end of 2024. Well, now it seems Bryce Young and the 8-9 Panthers, they are being dismissed. They are the smelly uncle at the cocktail party. He's worn that jacket every day for the past 10 years. Like, there's no logistical way in which he's washed that thing. So that's the Panthers. They stink. Just kidding. But you get the point. Like, they are the little brother amongst the men. And I think it's a great opportunity for Young. He's in this situation where everyone is doubting the team, but also him. So Kurt Warner put out this 38-minute, I'm not kidding, 38 minutes of film. So I know I give my analysis and some of that on this channel, but he did 38 minutes, I'll link it in the description, on Bryce Young, breaking down the footwork, breaking down his game against Tampa. Here's his main takeaways. This is on X. I know hashtag Bryce Young has come a long way from his rookie year, but until he cleans up his feet in the pocket and learns to sit strong and ready at top of drop, it will be really hard to take that next step. It causes him to be late and miss a lot of throws. And with his limited arm strength, playing late is not a winning proposition a lot of the time. He was a little bit more subtle in the breakdown, so I'll give you that clip in a minute. But that was his main takeaway, something we've talked about at length, the footwork, setting his feet, and really being on time with the receivers. Now, Canales has stated that some of that is the depth of the routes and just the receivers and their patterns. So maybe that's an off-season project for the coach, working on the receivers and their rapport with the quarterback and telling them when to sit on a route, etc. But here is Kurt Warner one more time breaking down Bryce Young's game against the Bucs. He's going to have an opportunity against another weak secondary. The Rams, they do get Quentin Lake back, so he's going to be a problem. He's a good safety, a leader in that locker room, a guy that they didn't see week 13. It'll be a little bit more difficult. But here is Kurt Warner's takeaway from the game against the Bucs, what he thought while watching Bryce Young.
I'm just telling you the things that I'm seeing when it comes to technique, that I was saying that Bryce has done a lot of good things. But I think for him to take the step up, if he's going to show that he can be an elite quarterback, is he's got to be able to win with his feet and win with his timing, because he's not the most talented physical quarterback in the league. And please don't take that as a knock or saying he's not any good. I wasn't the most talented. I was limited physically with what I could do as well. So I'm not taking a shot at anybody else. I was one of these guys. And so I had to win with other things, timing, anticipation, footwork. Those all had to be good for me to win, because I couldn't win with a cannon arm or buying time and doing all that stuff.
So Kurt Warner with a very humble take, knowing his own limitations as a passer. Well, he was in the NFL and breaking down Bryce Young's game with that perspective. So I think this is a big game for Bryce Young. Some of those fundamental things that I don't think they've been consistent. Even in a big game for him where he had 266 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, that was Kurt Warner's takeaway. And I'm not saying Kurt Warner's right about everything, but I still think there is stuff to seek out if you're Bryce Young. And I just did 12 minutes or so talking about Rico Dowdle and his role in this game. Canales did say Bryce Young will probably have 3 to 5 opportunities. That's how he quantified it. I don't know how he quantifies it. Kurt Warner did a 38-minute breakdown, so how many opportunities can you fit into that? But Canales said 3 to 5 opportunities. So maybe he's thinking home run ball, times where you get a good look from the defense and you can take advantage of this Rams secondary, which quite frankly is not good. And I know Quentin Lake will be back. He is a good player. It's looking like he's going to play. Emmanuel Forbes, who's a starting corner for the Rams, got destroyed. They confused him. He was literally 10 yards behind. I think both, definitely T-Mac and maybe Coker in that Week 13 game, got burnt all day. I thought they really confused the safeties. There were a couple single high sets, so it'll be interesting to see if the Rams do that again. But that play to T-Mac, the long touchdown, basically you have one safety back, and it's deep crossers. I think Legette was on one side. This week it'll be Coker. And T-Mac was on the other side, and they just did these deep crossing routes, and they confused the safety, got him off balance. Forbes, I forgot who the safety was. They're literally running like 15 yards behind T-Mac, and Bryce Young made a big throw and got the ball to T-Mac. So I think this defense is going to give you opportunities. It was funny. I was watching the Cardinals-Rams game, and I go, are they going to run the ball? So DeMarcado had 2 carries. That's the Cardinals running back. Michael Carter finished with 7. And then Corey Kleiner had 3. But they really did a pass-heavy game. They gave the ball to Brissett 34 times. He was 22 of 31 passing attempts, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. And that's Brissett. He also had a pick. But again, like, that is how the Cardinals attack this team, with the pass. Obviously, the Cardinals are a much different team. They are not as good up front as the Panthers on offense. But I do find that philosophy interesting. The week before, the Cardinals had 195 yards rushing. And I think the week before that, you had Darnold going off. And that shootout between the Rams and Seahawks. So there's going to be some offensive opportunity and probably an opportunity to pass the ball if you're the quarterback. So finally, I want to conclude with this. We're going to do a lot more on the Rams later this week. Obviously, breaking down weaknesses, went through a few of them, but there's a lot more on the table. Of course, I also want to revisit this. Talked about it yesterday. This is going to be a huge moment, and I know Canales says it over and over. It literally is tiring. He says it so much. Championship moment, championship moment, championship moment. It's like everything is a championship moment to this guy. Everything is. It's like, I don't know if he's trying to brainwash the team. Like, he just says everything's a championship moment. So then when the actual championship moment comes around, as in you're playing the Rams on Wild Card Weekend, like that it like no longer feels like a a championship moment. Like, this is just some sort of calculated plan by Canales to just instill into his team that everything is a championship moment. It's like, I didn't use my phone on the toilet today. That was my New Year's resolution. Championship moment. I ate healthy. I got cardio. Championship moment. And maybe as you get into these games that are feeling like championships, it's a little bit easier. Who knows? But to Canales, this is a championship moment. This is not just a routine poop for the coach. This is a serious thing. And for him, I was so amazed by how vividly he described his moment in Seattle during the Beast Quake run. Here is the coach.
Of course, I can't forget, Beast Quake, and really the crowd just going nuts on this amazing run, breaking, 9 or 10 tackles all the way. I was in the box at the time. We're all yelling so much. The stadium was actually swaying a little bit. The whole building was moving. And I popped up on my feet and was yelling so loud when I sat back down after the touchdown, I almost fainted. It was just like I had all the blood had rushed to my head. But just an amazing memory, an electric moment, and I'm really excited to create some memories and moments here in Bank of America Stadium, Wildcard.
So he wants to create some moments like that at Bank of America Stadium, and I think that moment for the Seahawks was so big. They were good a couple of years before that. They were always, I guess, teasing. Didn't they have the Super Bowl against the Steelers, the young Ben Roethlisberger on the Steelers side? But they're 7-9. They win the playoff game against the number 1 seed Saints. The crowd is so electric after the Beast Quake run, the 67-yard touchdown from Marshawn Lynch. There's literally a magnitude 2 earthquake. So there's a low-grade earthquake. So that's why it's called the Beast Quake. That is how loud the stadium was. And I think for the Panthers, Cam Newton on his show, he had like the visual 2023, the Bank of America Stadium compared to now. You have more and more fans in there. Not saying you're going to get the 12s like they have in Seattle, but I think this is a moment where turning the page figuratively. Now, you have literally done this. You're 8-9. You're in the playoffs. You're turning a corner. But I think they need to figuratively turn the page, which is let's pull the sword from the stone here and let's literally beat this team. Have some sort of Rico Dowdle run like that. Make this feel like a championship. Really take advantage of this opportunity. And Canales knows the power that exists in that type of play. We hope that he's on. We're going to go more into game plan stuff later this week and all the storylines. Big media day on Wednesday. So breaking everything down. Actually, on Tuesday, rather, there's going to be a lot of press conferences and such. So we're going to go over all that on The Tone. This is The Tone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for so much more. Beast Quake. I'm going to go Beast Quake. I'm going to go jump on the ground and